Welcome to this quick start guide for CARL2, analysis tool for Rocket League. On your screen you see the timestamps for each part of the video, so you can skip to the part you are interested in. How to install CARL2. Before downloading CARL2, make sure you have Backsmod installed. If you do not have Backsmod installed, check the link in the description. Now we will install CARL2. Simply go to the URL on screen or check the link in the description. Click download and wait for it to finish downloading. Once downloaded, click the file and wait for it to install. If you get a Windows pop-up, click more info followed by run anyway. To use CARL2, you need a CARL2 account. Fill in your email and choose a password. After this, you will receive a confirmation email. Process a replay. Click on Process Replays. Here you can choose from your Steam Replays, Epic Games Replays, or pick a custom folder. For example, your download folder. Select a replay you want to process and click on Process Replays in the bottom right. This will connect to your Rocket League and start extracting the statistics. Once it is done processing, you can immediately go to the stats, but this can also be done from the main menu. Single Game Analysis. To review a game, simply click on the Analyze Single Game option. Here you can choose which one you want to analyze. Now we will go over all the data and visualizations. In the Match tab, you find a quick overview. For example, the players on each team, the score, a short summary of the team and player stats, and a quick overview of the player performance. But now we will go into deeper analysis. To do this, go to the Outlier Detection tab. Here you can see which players performed different from the other players for certain stats. This can be in a good or bad way. Look for these stats in the other tab to investigate in more detail. Let's now look into the Goals tab. Here you can see where each goal was scored and adjust the game timeline. Below this is the build-up map. This shows us exactly how a goal happened, who scored, and who assisted. We can also go further back in time to see the plays leading up to the goal. The kickoff map is the opposite. Here we can see what happens to the ball after kickoff and who touches it. In the Interactions tab, we find all player interactions. This includes passes, giveaways, interceptions, 50-50s, dribbles, ball touches, and demos. Be sure to use the player visibility filter at the top to further zoom in on a specific player. Below this, we also have a bunch of stats for those who want to go into more detail. In the Boost tab, we find the player pickup maps. This shows how many times each player collected that boost. Next to this, we have Team Boost Control. This gives us an overview of which team dominated what boost. Below these visualizations, we have stats to go into more detail, as well as different ways to visualize them by the zones on the field. You can also look for outliers by going through the bar charts. The Movement tab contains all information related to where players are on the field. Starting with player heat maps, this shows where people tend to be on the pitch. Be sure to play around with the resolution and change the mode to get more insights. Next to this is ball data. This gives a quick overview of the ball heat maps, as well as shows the field domination or pressure over time and where that led to a goal. Next to this, we have player path maps. This is how they rotated during the game. You can also go into more detail by opening the 3D view. Another way to get insights into the game is by using the Time Series tab. This shows you in detail how each player kept momentum, used boost, or traveled in the air. If you want to look into more detail how the players exactly rotated during the game, use the Playthrough tab. This shows you how they move on the field relative to each other and the ball. Use the 3D view for more spatial awareness. Below these visualizations, we have stats to go into more detail, as well as different ways to visualize them by the zones on the field. You can also look for outliers by going through the bar charts. In the Correlations tab, you can look for reasons to explain, for example, why someone uses more boost. Could this be because they traveled a further distance? In this example, that seems to be the case. In the Teams tab, we can quickly compare team performance to see if one team stands out at certain stats. In this case, we can see that blue travels more often at supersonic and uses more boost, while orange does more passes. Multiple games analysis. To review multiple games, simply click on the Analyze series of games option. Here you can choose all the games you want to analyze. Now we will go over all the data and visualizations. The Series tab shows data collected over the full series, player kill maps, death maps, pass maps, giveaway maps, interceptions maps, dribble maps, and 50-50s map. All of these also have a 3D option to look into more detail, for example, to see if most passes are in the air or over the ground. In goal maps, we get an overview of all the goals scored and the average speed. The player connection graph visualizes all the passes between players. Successful passes to teammates, but also passes to the opponents. Hovering gives you more details. In outlier detection, we can see if a player performs consistent during the full series. If a stat shows up here, it means that the player was inconsistent at this stat. Simply click the stat and scroll down to the box splat to see the variation. Also check the Evolution tab for this stat. More information on that later. Now we will look into series averages. This means that all stats you find here are averaged for each player over the amount of games they played in. First, we see boost pickup maps. This shows which paths each player takes on average for a game. Below this are the heat maps. This shows you the paths the players likes to take during a game. You can change the modes to be from the side or looking goal to goal to look for paths in the air. Next to this are radar charts. These charts allow you to compare players in specific areas. For example, interactions. This shows if a player likes to pass 50-50s or loses possession. The bar charts next to this give a similar idea, but this time for a single stat. This makes it easier to compare the specific values. If you want to go into even more detail, you can look into the data tables. This gives you in-depth information for each statistic. To get a visual idea of the stat in the different field zones, you can use the zones visualization. This allows you to look into how performance is in each zone to see if there are any outliers. Using these series averages, we can also see if on a series level there is correlation between stats. For example, if we look into ball touches and passes given, we can see that Vatira likes to pass the ball to a teammate whenever he touches the ball. The win versus loss tab is critical to know how you win games. At the top you see the performance in the series, and if some games were close. But below this is where the real insights are. For each stat we can see what you need to work on to win games. If the stat is negative, it means you do this more when you lose games. For example, we see that for Zen, when he is the last man, he tends to lose the game. Meaning that for winning games, Zen should be 4% less last man. Another example is ahead of ball. Here we see that you tend to lose more games if you stay ahead of the ball longer. The final and another super important tab is Evolution. This tab allows you to spot trends. This means how a player performance changes between games. Here you can see that Itachi is the slowest player. If we check average boost, we can see that Zen has big inconsistencies in average boost. Below this are the exact values in table form for a more detailed overview. Live replay analysis. Start by clicking Live Replay Analysis. To do real-time live replay analysis, make sure you start a replay in your Rocket League. Now we can use CARL2 and Rocket League side by side to look into it in more detail. You can use the controls at the top to rewind, pause, and fast forward the replay. On the left, we have the minimap, and on the right side, real-time player boost, player speed, and their throttle. On the minimap, we can adjust a few settings. This is to add more or less information, boost modes, connection lines, overlay settings, height indicator, and more. Analyze past spectated games. All completed games you spectated will be saved to this location. This section works the same as the replay analysis. You have a single and multiple games option. For full details on the analysis part of these options, check the earlier chapters. Real-time live games. Now we explore the live game section. This has views for observers, referees, match admins, coaches, and casters. First, we start with the observer view. This shows the player list to quickly check who joined and their ping. Other sections are game events, to see what happened in-game. The minimap to get a sense of where everyone is and their spectate keybind. A chat log to keep track of who said what, and real-time boost and speed meters. This layout can be edited by clicking the layout option at the top. In the coach view, we have some more options. Advanced player stats to see real-time performance. These can be toggled and reordered to personal preference. A minimap, real-time boost, speed and throttle, as well as basic stats and a team stats overview for quick comparison, as well as the chat history and game events. The caster view has almost all of the same options as the coach view, just in a specialized layout, which can also be modified. The default settings of this page are also slightly different compared to the others. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the Discord. Here you can also create suggestions for features you want added to CARL2.